Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. I just wanted to pop in and kind of give you a 1-year update on the Konmari declutter I did last year. So this is not a crafty video. I mean, I'll be talking about craft clutter and junk like that, but if you don't like these declutter videos, motivational videos, then you probably just want to stop watching now. So you've been warned, okay? I'm going to talk about stuff for like 20 minutes. So yeah, you've been warned. So a year ago, a little more than a year ago actually, I started decluttering my house using the KonMari method from the life-changing magic of tidying up. And while my house is not perfect, I reduced my craft supplies to about half, which is pretty staggering when you see how much stuff I still have. But the wonderful thing about this, besides just getting rid of excess, was the whole attitude shift and how my life became so much more calmer and more focused. And I just wanted to come back and kind of give you an update because I know a lot of you guys have followed the journey with me and have also started decluttering things on your own. And throughout the year, I've read different books and kind of had a lot of personal growth and all that jazz. And I just want to share kind of what has worked for me, and hopefully it'll inspire you guys as well. One thing that was a constant theme, which was not even something it wasn't even on my radar when I began, was this whole kind of fantasy person that I think we all have this kind of fantasy person, this person that we want to be, and sometimes we buy things and they're not really things for us. They're for things for the person we think we should be. For instance, I bought this huge, like bulk box of V8 juice, you know, like vegetable juice. And I thought, I'm going to drink V8 every day with lunch, you know, I'm going to be super healthy. And Fantasy Lindsay loves V8. Fantasy Lindsay is super duper healthy. I mean, I'm pretty healthy, but I'm not drinking V8 every day. And I look at that box on the shelf and I still have so much V8. I bought it probably right before I started doing the KonMari method, and it was just crazy. It's like, why am I holding on to this? And then I realized the only time I actually like to drink V8 is if I'm at a restaurant, and it's usually because I'm having a plate of french fries and I need something to balance out that really unhealthy choice. So I'm not just going to crack open a can of V8 and drink it on a daily basis. That's something Fantasy Lindsay would do, not something Reality Lindsay would do. But there's a lot of things like that too. In the craft room especially, I would find projects that I bought because, well, I kind of would like to learn how to do that, or I probably should learn how to do that, but it's not even really something I want to do or I like doing. So I think this whole declutter process has taught me to really, you know, be myself. Don't try to be this fantasy version of yourself. Don't buy something because somebody else likes doing it and you think you ought to like doing it too, because that's not how it works. You have to be yourself, and it takes getting rid of all the excess junk for you to even realize who that is, at least in my case anyway. So the other thing is that I was so afraid that I would get rid of something and then need it. I have yet to need it. The only one thing that I got rid of, okay, there were two things I got rid of that I actually ended up needing or could have used. One was soap fragrance, because I made some bath bombs with my girls, but the soap fragrance I had that I gave away was actually like very musky, heavy scents, and that's not what I would have even wanted to use my bath bombs anyway. Sure, I would have used it if I still had it, but I actually bought some fruity fragrances because I preferred fragrances like that, and it works better for bath bombs. So, you know, it wasn't even the same thing. I didn't even rebuy the same thing I got rid of. I bought something different. And the other thing was just some window screening that I had for like crafty purposes, like paper making and stuff, and I got rid of it because I didn't need that much. And then, you know, we actually needed to replace a screen on the playhouse window like that last summer, and we'd just gotten rid of the screen. But other than that, there wasn't anything I got rid of that I regretted. And that's like house-wide. I went through everything. I went through books, I went through clothing, I went through tons of stuff. And one piece of advice I would give you though, if you are donating a lot of stuff, I didn't sell anything, I donated everything. When you donate things to like Goodwill or other charity shops, you can get a receipt, which I did, but I didn't realize they weren't going to assign value to your stuff. They just kind of wrote down how much. Like it would be like housewares, a couple boxes, or a couple bags of clothes, or a carload. You know, they didn't really give you anything specific. So when I was doing my taxes this year, I know I greatly underestimated what I donated because I was afraid that I didn't want to overestimate it. So what I would do is, as you donate stuff, if you are going to keep your receipt for tax purposes, write down what you donated, because there is actually a list online that you can, if you're in the United States, I don't know about other countries, but there's a list online at like Goodwill their website where you can assign a value. So if you gave away 10 pairs of jeans, each pair of jeans might be worth like $2. You know, that's $20 right there that can go against any taxes that you owe, or it actually reduces your taxable income. But anyway, you want to keep track of that as you go if that's important to you. If it's not important to you, just pack it up and get rid of it. That's what I did. That's why I didn't do a yard sale, because I knew that the more time I spent with these items, the harder they would be to let go, even though they weren't anything that I missed or really wanted. I don't know why I had them in the first place. The other thing I learned, because I was never a big shopper, is that I learned to refuse things that I didn't want. Because before I wouldn't want to hurt somebody's feelings. If they offered me something, I'd just take it. And then I felt responsible for that thing. So I'd either have to donate it or find a new home for it. And when I was teaching kids art classes a lot, I would just take everything that was a craft supply and I would try to work it in with those classes. But I ended up with so many oddball things that I couldn't use that it just ended up being extra clutter, and then I was overwhelmed by it. So before I got rid of anything, I actually emailed the local art teacher and I said, listen, this is what I have in vast quantities. Can you use any of it in your classes? I didn't want to dump a bunch of oddball things off on her to deal with, because I knew that she might be in the same situation that I was. You know, don't want to, turn something away, but if it's not something that can be used, it's just going to be classroom clutter, and I don't want to do that to somebody else. So that's another thing that I realized, that being not being offended if someone doesn't want something you're getting rid of. That's fine. I let my crafty friends come over and have at it, take whatever they wanted, and then the rest I just boxed up and gave to Goodwill. So I asked the school teachers, I asked my friends, and then I boxed it up, and I told my friends that if you don't feel like you have to keep this for 100 years, if you take it and then you realize you can't use it, give it to somebody else or donate it. Don't feel obligated to keep it forever. Because I know some people get very offended when you give them something and then they get rid of it. And I used to too. And it's like, wow, why did I get so upset? I gave this thing to this person. It's not mine anymore. It doesn't affect my life whether they keep it or they give it away. Why would I get so bothered by that? So letting go of that, letting go of the emotional ties that we have on our things was a big lesson that I learned. Also, the fact that I was able to get rid of so much stuff after being such a pack rat, it gave me a lot of confidence. And after I finished the Konmari Declutter, I launched my first solo class. I mean, I'd done classes for other companies because I never felt like confident enough to do it on my own. And since then, I've launched 3 classes that have all been very successful, and I've been able to help more people grow in a more in-depth way than I can do on YouTube, because YouTube is it's great for sharing videos, but you can't really dig deep on YouTube like you can in a classroom setting. So that was another huge benefit. And I would have felt, well, it's too much technology, it's too overwhelming, I can't do it, I don't have the time to do it. But once you get rid of all this excess stuff, you free up so much time. And I didn't realize how much time managing my stuff took. I mean, that was probably one of the biggest revelations. I also feel a lot more clear-headed, and when I start working on a project, I'm not distracted by so many peripheral things like I used to be. Now, that said, I am the type of person that loves to have a lot of stuff around. I like to have a lot of options when I'm creating. I don't find what I have now overwhelming, but somebody else could walk into my craft room and be like, whoa, this is just too much stuff to look at. I can't focus and concentrate. Everybody's got their own level. Your level might be twice as much stuff as I have. Your level might be a quarter of the stuff that I have, which would make you feel completely creative and feeling like you have enough versatility of supplies to make what you want to make. Everybody has their own level of comfort there, and that's why you need to be you and not be me. I love to watch people's craft room tours where their rooms are packed to the rafters with goodies. I enjoy seeing that. I think it's fun. It's more than I want, but good for them. That works for them. That's fine. And I also love seeing people's beautiful IKEA craft rooms that are all white and tidy and beautifully cleaned. That's not for me. I'd be too afraid to spill something, but I think it's beautiful, and I think it's great for them that they want to do that. So it also taught me to be much more accepting and not feel jealous if somebody else has something I don't, or somebody's better at something than I am, because we're all our own people with our own strengths and weaknesses. So I might be good at thing A, and she might be good at thing B, and he might be good at thing C. We all have our own strengths and our own passions, and we need to pour our energy in our passions and not worry about what everybody else is doing or what we think we ought to be doing. It's like I get a lot of requests to do acrylic painting tutorials. That's not my thing. I don't feel passion for acrylic painting. I use it for base coating things and for other projects, and I might need a quick fast drying color for, but I don't feel the passion in like doing a complete painting in acrylics. I've got to do what is good for me. I could do a painting in gouache and absolutely love it, and somebody who prefers painting with acrylics can follow that and you know, be true to themselves and use the medium they want to and both people can get something out of that that tutorial. But I'm not going to work with something unless I really feel the passion for that particular project. Occasionally I do feel like painting with acrylics and I do that, but you know, you definitely have to go where your passions lie and, you know, create the artwork that is meaningful to you and create the home that's meaningful to you. So like a year ago, well, a little over a year ago, we were contemplating putting on an addition onto our house. And I mean, it was almost going to like double our square footage, and because that seemed like the only solution, the absolute only solution. We have 5 people, we live in a ranch, we need more space. That is the absolutely only solution there could possibly be. You know, I think you can be very narrow-minded. I was very narrow-minded. But then after I started getting rid of stuff, we realized, holy cow, we have some room here. We were able to build a bedroom in the basement for my son. My craft room's a little smaller now. The office is much clearer. We have room for me and my husband to work in the office upstairs. My husband joined my business. Before, I never thought that he would be able to leave his job and be part of the business, even though I was stressed out and working way too much, way too many hours. I was way inactive. But it never felt like a possibility. It just, like, your stuff can almost make a cage around you. It's kind of crazy, and it's just stuff. Why do we put so much, like, give our stuff so much power over us? It's really, really crazy. So we were even looking at bigger houses, and we were considering, you know, taking on debt to have a bigger house. It was crazy, but that was normal. That's normal. That's what everybody does. It's normal. But we challenged normal, and now our home feels so much more spacious. It's so much easier to clean. I feel like a much more competent person because if somebody stops by unexpectedly, I'm not horrified because my house looks like a bomb went off. I am like, okay, it might be a little messy, but so what? It's, you know, it's fine. You know, you're not tripping over, you know, Amazon boxes, or, you know, it's fine. It's okay. You know, I learned to cut myself a little slack, and I also learned to be a little bit more efficient. And I've been reading the book, The Happiness Project. I'm not done it yet, but I'm really happy with it. I'm happy with it. The Happiness Project by Gretchen Rubin. It's a lovely book. And she was talking about her personal rules. And she says anytime she mentions her personal rules to somebody, everyone's like, oh yeah, I've got personal rules. And I started to think about it too. I'm like, yeah, I do too. Everybody does. So I thought it was fun, and I wrote mine down. And if you want to share, I'd love to see what your personal rules are in the comments below. But my personal rules won't be the same as yours. They won't be the same as anybody else's, but I think that's kind of funny, and it's just kind of like the guideposts that we run our day-to-day lives by. My #1 personal rule is wear shoes. That's one thing that, like, if you've ever met me, I always have shoes on unless I am at the beach and I only have my flip-flops off when I'm sitting on a beach blanket. Then I slide them back on to, like, I wear like Crocs in the water or flip-flops in the water to swim unless the sand is super, super soft. I always wear my shoes at home unless my feet are up on the couch. That's the only time I take my shoes off, or when I'm going to bed. So, like, I always wear shoes, and I think that was something that, like, my father instilled in us. It was always get your feet dressed, get your feet dressed. You know, when you're out for the day, get your feet dressed. If I don't have shoes on, I don't get anything done. The only time I would be at home during the day without shoes on is if I'm sick. You know, and I was like, you know, in blankets and, you know, feet up on the couch. You know, I wear shoes all the time. It puts me in that mental space of it's time to get stuff done, and you're ready for everything because you got your shoes on. If the UPS guy pulls up with a package, I can hop out the door and go get it, so he doesn't have to walk all the way up to the house. And, you know, you're just ready for anything. So I always wear shoes. I don't feel like I am competent without shoes on, and it's usually sneakers, you know, something comfortable. My next rule is put first things first. So if I have like a massive amount of things to do, I say, okay, what's the most important thing? And I do that first. A new rule that I've made is if it's not a heck yes, then it's a no. So if I don't feel like, yeah, I want to do that, then no, don't put it on your schedule. You'll get asked so many times during the week to do different things for different people and different groups and organizations, and you can't do everything. Or if you start saying yes to everything, then you are saying no to yourself and other things that you want to have done. So if it's not a heck yes, if I'm not passionate about doing it, then I'm going to say no. And as soon as I say yes, I put it in my calendar, and then I'm committed to it. And I've made time for it. So it's kind of putting yourself first, but you're also able to give more because you're not overcommitting and overscheduling yourself. Another rule is, and it's a fairly new one since Konmari, is don't leave a room empty-handed. So when I get up, say if I'm in the living room and I get up to go use the bathroom or go to the kitchen, I will look around the room and see if there's anything that needs to go in that direction. Like if the kids have left their sneakers on the floor or have left books around, I'll just grab up an armful of stuff and drop it off in their room on my way. Like I said, we live in a ranch, so everything is pretty much on one level except for my son's bedroom and my craft room. So it's easy. I just grab up whatever needs to go the direction I'm going and I just drop it off. It doesn't take any extra time, but it makes a huge difference in how tidy the house is. The next one is, if it takes less than 5 minutes to do it now. Of course, that means only important things. I'm not going to do things that aren't important or aren't things I need to do just because they're quick, but like that means like responding to an email or, you know, picking up the, you know, those dirty dishes off the coffee table. If it takes less than 5 minutes, do it now. Begin with the end in mind. That's another one from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So when you start a task, think about how you need it to end. If you don't know how this is going to end, maybe you don't want to begin it yet. Or unless it's just like, I'm going to play with these supplies and see what happens, well, that's fine. But if it's something you absolutely have to get done, you know, you want to think of how you need it to come to fruition and then take steps in that direction so you're not just scattered all over the place doing random stuff. Do something creative every day. That's been a personal rule of mine for my whole life, pretty much. And I find if I do, a day goes by and I haven't done anything creative, I feel like I've almost wasted a day. You know, and it might just be, you know, it might be like, oh my gosh, I need to do a deep clean of the house or whatever, because like old Lindsay would let things pile up until it was like, oh my gosh, you know, people are coming over, I need to get this taken care of. So even if I had a sparkling clean house by the end of the day, if I didn't do something creative, I always felt like disappointed, like a letdown, because it's like none of this stuff is going to stay clean. This is all going to become undone. But when you do something creative every day, it stays done. So it might just be a quick little doodle in your sketchbook, or it might be, you know, planning out a project for the next day. But do something creative every day. Maybe knitting a couple rows on a scarf that you've been working on for years. Just something creative every day. Get at least 7 hours of sleep every night. I'm a big believer in sleep. I know that I feel very kind of like I get the blues if I don't get enough sleep. So I make sure that I get at least 7 hours of sleep every night, preferably 7.5. I don't seem to be able to sleep for 8 hours. I seem to wake up before that, but yeah, at least 7 hours, and I usually wake up before my alarm clock, so I feel like I'm getting plenty of sleep that way. Another one, which is another 7 rules for highly effective people, rule is sharpen the saw. So at least once a week I'm doing something to creatively challenge myself and build my skills. In order to, I believe, to feel fulfilled and to be happy with life, you need to constantly be in a state of personal growth. So whether you're learning something new or you're improving in something you already do, I think you need to spend some time every week and improve on that skill. Challenge yourself, sharpen that saw. It might be reading a new book on a topic you're interested in. It might be like improving your drawing or painting skills, something to sharpen the saw. And my last rule is one I stole from the Happiness Project, and her rule was be Gretchen, my rule is be Lindsay. And that's not doing something just because somebody else is doing it, or trying to like something because somebody else likes it. If I try it and I don't like it, I don't need to keep the supplies for it. I don't need to do it again. I don't, you know, there's a lot of things I wish I liked, but if you don't like them, you don't like them. You know, it's like I wish I liked to go out dancing with my girlfriends. I don't like that. I find that very uncomfortable. I've tried it. I have gone along and done it. I never enjoy it. So I stopped doing it. You know, it's like nobody wants a wet blanket. You know, I don't want to be sitting in the corner and, you know, watching them dance. It's not something I like, so I stopped doing that. And you gotta be you, and I think that maybe that should be the first rule and not the last one, but it, you know, it works for me, and I think if you can identify what you really like, what you're passionate about, and live your life that way, you're gonna just be so much happier. But it all started from getting rid of some crap I didn't love anymore, didn't want it. I don't love any of my stuff. I enjoy it. It's useful. It does make me happy because I like to make art, so having art supplies obviously makes me happy, or makes me comfortable, or it helps me enjoy my life a little bit more, but they're just things in the end. And something else that was a big obstacle that I got over was I would buy something because, well, I might need it someday, or I might not be able to afford it someday. Well, with that thinking, no, I won't be able to afford anything if I keep buying all these things just for someday. It's just wait until you actually need it before you buy it. And that has really been a mental shift for me, but has really helped out. So I'd love to know your rules in the comments below. Let me know what you think, and good luck. Till next time, happy crafting.